Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pyro's Projects. Due to not being able to find some pieces and parts for some of my other projects and the fact that we're rapidly running out of warm weather season, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and start building the heat shield for my wood stove and actually blower shield, I guess, because it's going to have the blower on it. So I'm actually going to pick this pieces of it up, get it turned around so I can see the back side of it, because I'm going to build the shield around the back of it to blow out into the shop. And I'm going to get that turned around, and I'll show you what I'm thinking as far as what I'm going to do. Okay, so what I'm thinking is I need the shield to be removable from the stove so that if I have to take it apart and clean it, or if I decide to change something. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to try and hang the heat shield from this lip right here so that it's separate from the very top piece. And what I'm thinking, I'm hoping this works. I don't know. Obviously, I design on the fly. So I'm going to try and take one of the lips from a rim that I cut off, or cut off one of the rims to build this. And I'm going to use that to hopefully set right in here and then hang the cage off of it. Then I can then put the metal shield around the outside of it. So I'm going to get started on, I'm going to cut that ring in half and we'll go from there and see what I can pull off. All right, so I got that ring cut so that it'll just sit right in this lip. And I went ahead and added just a little piece of block right here to keep it from going too far this way. When it's turned around, this side will be against my little staircase right there. And it would, if it got turned too far, it could blow straight across the narrow part of the shop. So what I did is I put this block here to keep it from my shield from rotating that way, but I can rotate it the other way so it'll blow down the length of the shop. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm actually making my spacer blocks that'll sit on this piece and actually down all the way down the rest of the body. I got that measured out to just a little over 2 inches. And what I did is I actually built myself a little jig off the side of my chop saw. So as I cut these, they'll all be the same length. Because I'm figuring I've got to cut probably at least, I'd say 30 or 40 of these. So instead of having to measure each time, just make it simple, slide it out to the edge, chop it off, and keep moving. So I'm going to get to cutting a whole mess of these out real fast, and we'll catch up in a little bit. All right, so I got all my little spacers cut and cleaned up all the edges. And then I went ahead and cut my uprights for the thing, for the shield. And I also made myself a little jig so that I can put these together a little bit quicker and easier, because I don't know how many of the little spacers I'm going to end up needing, but I'm going to do 4 uprights to hold the whole shield together. And I'm going to put 2 of these spacers on each one of them. And I figured it'd be just easier to build a little jig to make everything line up a lot faster and quicker. I've got it measured out so I have my spacing correct for the top end, and then the other end I can just, slide in and make it level or flush with this piece here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll get these 4 put together, and then I got to start figuring out how I'm going to make the rest of the cage to hold the actual shield. So let me get these put together and I'll show you where I'm at in a moment. All right, so here's what I come up with. I got my spacer blocks at each end tacked on. This end, I put a little tab on it because I mismeasured like 3 times and came up with the same number, and it was wrong. So I had to put a little tab to hold up or to keep this end off the rim. Let me pause this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, from this spot right here down to this point on the body, I measured it 3 times and came up with 3.5 inches. But on my bracket here, I measured it off to 31.5 inches. So when I set it up there at the top, like that, this bottom end down here was tucking underneath the rim. So I put the little tab on there so it'll sit against the rim. Now this end is not going to get welded because it's going to come off so the whole heat shield can come off. So let me get these welded onto this ring and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. All right, so this is what I got. I got 4 of these uprights hanging off this top rim. And then down here at the very bottom, these little tabs that I had to add because I mismeasured and such so that it'll hold in place. Now what I'm going to do is take some more of this rectangle tube that I have, and I'm going to go between each of these 4 bottom spots to make the whole cage rigid. And once I get the whole cage a little bit more rigid than what it is right now, I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as taking this entire shield off. So let me get that taken care of and I'll be back with you shortly. All right, everybody, here's where I'm at. I've got this cage all set in place. I think I'd showed you the top piece earlier, or maybe it was just the bars. I hadn't maybe attached them to the ring yet, but I've got my spacers around the bottom and the tabs down there, obviously. And then I put in these other structural uprights so that when I go to skin it, I've got enough that I can fold it in without it collapsing in the centers. But I'm going to put the camera in the tripod real quick and I'll show you how it comes up off of there. So basically what the ultimate goal is once I get this skinned all the way around, I want to be able to take it off. And right now I'm just using 2 fingers to take it off. Now my thought process is once I get my skin put on, I might actually build myself 2 handles somewhere, like maybe off of these 2 ribs or something, that I can pick it up and take it off. I don't know. But I got a blower. I'm not sure where I put it at this moment. Here it is. Hold that thought. I found this dual squirrel cage blower. And so what I'm thinking is I'll mount that like probably something like this so that it'll push air around the center of the stove and out. This is a multi-speed 12-volt blower. So I think what I'm going to do is see if I can come up with a couple of thermostats or thermocouples that I can maybe mount one directly to the stove body. I don't know if that's going to work. I have to think about that. But I'm trying to come up with a couple of thermocouples that, you know, I can mount so that as the stove gets hot, it'll kick on a medium speed or something. And then to get a little bit hotter, it'll kick on a high speed. But this is the goal. Once I get the outer skin put on that I can mount the fan, I'm actually going to have to pull this off a little bit because this is a plastic housing and I don't want it to melt. So I might, you know, set it out a little bit so that it'll be spaced away from the heat a little bit more so I don't melt my fan. But that is the goal, to get it all, to push the heat out into the shop. Then what I got to do is I'm going to come up with some small, real thin, like sheet steel that I can cap off the top and the bottom down here. That way I can keep all the heat going around, or from the blower going around the body of the stove to push the heat out into the shop. So I do think I'm going to go ahead and stop for today because I got to come up with something I can skin this with. And I have no idea what I'm going to use. It'd be nice if I had a couple of road signs, but I don't have any road signs. So I'm going to see. I'll see if I can find something that I can continue on with this later.